Hey, it's time for another edition of the Cseekly Recap. I'm your host Csomm, and I'm here to go a bit deeper into the topics that I covered in my shorts. The footage behind is from the game 007 First Light. Let's get started with the first news of the week, which is all about Crimson Desert. Apparently, Pearl Abyss has revealed its post-launch roadmap for Crimson Desert, including a future DLC expansion, new combat-focused content, and major quality-of-life improvements. Most notably, the studio is planning to improve the game's story, widely considered its weakest aspect, by refining key scenes and strengthening the narrative flow of Cliff's journey. Players can also expect updates to the reblockade system, better rewards, cross-save support across platforms, and expanded trading and farming activities. You gotta admit, Pearl Abyss people are really working to improve the game every single day. And some of the other studios would never do this. The game would be as is, and then you would maybe hope and pray they fix certain things that are plainly and obviously bad with the game. However, that doesn't mean that what they're doing should be something that every studio does, because every single game when it comes out should be a self-contained unit, and most of the things that you should fix initially are the bugs, and that's how it was back in the day. So while I kinda support what they're doing on one hand, on the other hand I think this is just ridiculous. The game came out, 2-3 months, and they're still fixing the core systems in order for them to be logical and in order for us to interact with them in a meaningful way. And one of these core systems they are planning to fix is the game's story. Initially, as far as I remembered, they said that they won't do anything because it's kinda hard to do it. But no matter what you do, the first thing that you encounter are the characters and the story, and that for some people was off-putting, and me included, so I just plainly stopped playing because I couldn't see any sense whatsoever what I'm doing. And for me, the narrative aspect, especially if the game is an RPG, is very important because I need to get into the game in order to sort of make it personal for me. Otherwise, what's the point? And that would be okay if that was the only problem. I could kinda soldier through it, but the game had a slew of other problems, so, I just gave up because it needs to cook. And over the 2-3 months, they have been cooking and producing all kinds of fixes and all that stuff. But let me go back to the original point that I was making, which is the storyline. I don't know how they're going to fix it. Maybe put additional lines, explanations from other characters. Something like that if it's going to be a quick fix. Because, let's be honest, Cliff is so bland and cardboard cutout-like character that you cannot really connect with him no matter what you do. And of course there are other issues like, who am I? What am I doing? Who is you? Who are they? The usual stuff where RPG storyline needs to be explained to a certain point in order for you to grasp the, I suppose, basic elements of it before you actually do something. Sure, some things can be veiled in mystery, but that's something for you to unlock or unveil later on. But this game, when it comes to story, was just a disjointed mess for the first 10 hours. There were many instances where I just said, look, if you just said this, like one line, everything would be much clearer, but apparently that was not the case. It seems to me they focused too much on gameplay, which when I initially played the game wasn't the best, but at least it was the easiest thing to fix. Whereas the story, well, you need a lot of things in order to make it credible and believable and understandable, so you can latch onto it and use it to understand the world around you, which quite frankly Crimson Desert failed miserably. So I gotta say, as far as I'm concerned, it was a good thing for me to only play 10 hours of that game, because if I played more, I think I would be frustrated to no end, especially when it comes to story, but also other elements of the game. So who knows, maybe in 6 months after the launch, the game will be ready for me to dive deep into it. And I gotta say, sometimes when people say when the new games are coming out, they wait like 6 months or 1 year and then they purchase it, because by that time, especially with this development culture that we have at the moment, the game will probably be fixed. So yeah, I guess sometimes patience is a virtue, especially when you're Crimson Desert. The next story that I covered was all about God of War Laufey, which recently was announced. That was basically that secret project that Corley Barlog was working on, and finally we have the preview of the game. Obviously I was curious, so I checked it out. And for the most part I would say it's your typical God of War experience. The only difference from the usual experience is that we don't play as Kratos, we play as his wife. And in that sense, I saw her moveset and everything that goes with the character and, it's okay. It seems to me that it's a bit more flashier than what Creators is usually doing. But you know, it's basically same but different, but still the same. The graphical elements and the design looks really good, but that's not why you play those games, at least that's why I don't play them. You've seen the graphics once, that's about it, maybe you're like, oh my god, this looks nice, and then after 2 seconds you immediately forget about the things. For me, these games are all about gameplay, which I already said it looks okay, and the story. And apparently the story is focused about this afterlife place for gods. I think it's called Everwhere. Basically, if you're a god, you get killed and you end up there. The thing is, most of the gods that we have been able to see are the god of wars, which is the Tibetan dude and the Egyptian god of war Sekhmet, or whatever the fuck she is. So my question is this only place for people or gods who would have war in their name or their title, or is this some kind of a general place for any god that got killed or died? But I reckon they mostly got killed because I don't think gods can die, but you know, that's basically the lore and all that stuff. It doesn't really matter. Maybe it's gonna have different sections, like areas. Okay, these are the war people, and then you have the general gods, and then you have the pantheon leaders, and God knows what it might contain. So in that sense, the story might be interesting. I don't know. But the question is, and this is what I already said, will it be ported to PC? Because, again, PC is something that's not the main focus for Sony, because they have their own console, which is PlayStation 5. And recently they said that they will not be doing any ports because apparently they didn't earn a lot of money. I don't know, but again, for me it was illogical to begin with to port these games when you have your own system, which, you know, exclusivity and all that stuff. So I don't know if I will ever play God of War Laufey because primarily I'm playing on PC, and it remains to be seen whether or not this particular title will be ported to PC in, I don't know, 6 months or a year or something like that. Also, I read somewhere that this is like a secondary thing because the Kratos, his stories that is, and the journey, that's always the main pillar of the franchise. So if you were worried about Kratos being sidelined, well, that's not gonna happen. Not to mention they're not that dumb in order to do that. But you know, wilder things have happened in the past, so who the hell knows how the winds are going to change. Safe to say, new God of War game is here, it looks okay, and it will probably expand on the whole universe and the lore, so I guess that's additional plus. Now this next story is all about CDPR and Witcher 3. A veteran CDPR developer has joked that the team actually tried to add even more question marks to Skellige in The Witcher 3 The Wild Hunt. And for many players, me included, Skellige remains one of the most beautiful regions in gaming history, but also one of the most infuriating, because between the endless smuggle caches and ocean exploration, completionists still have nightmares about clearing every marker on the map. The comment was likely tongue-in-cheek, but it perfectly captures one of the biggest debates surrounding The Witcher 3. Did Skellige have too much content or just too many repetitive activities? And to that I would say the Skellige did not have enough question marks on the land. They basically shoved everything in the sea, or in this case the ocean. When I made a video about the things that I want to see in The Witcher 4, or rather things that I don't want to see in The Witcher 4, the Skellige situation was the first one that I mentioned. Yes, you can definitely have question marks in the water, but too much of them and all of them are those smuggler caches, that was so dumb. It would have been better if they enlarged the islands a bit and then sprinkled a bit more of the question marks there, and I would argue the experience would have been much better. I reckon the main issue with those things in the water, the smuggler caches or rather the question marks, were A, the traversal option, which is only the boat, and B, the, you could say, blandness of the activity that you were performing. There was absolutely no environmental storytelling, basically no storytelling at all. You could summarize that all those question marks were a result of the raids, which Skellige people do, and essentially if you were doing them, you turned into a ocean garbage man, because you were clearing all the mess that was left behind them. But anyway, for the future games, and that being Witcher 4, 5, and 6, please, don't do this because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Again, you can do a couple of these, but 50 plus of them, that's just dumb. Plain and simple. And here is me hoping that CDPR actually learned their lesson, so we are going to have much better experience in The Witcher 4 and all of their games that will have similar or same elements. Because I'm definitely looking forward to see if they learn from their mistakes, because this particular situation is not the only one where I had criticism in comparison to what I would like to see in The Witcher 4 based on The Witcher 3. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And for my final news that I covered this week, we are going to talk about Palworld, because Palworld is officially launching into version 1.0 on July 10. After becoming one of gaming's biggest surprise hits, the game is finally leaving early access with a major update that promises new pals, new regions to explore, and a brand new threat for players to face. The announcement was revealed during Summer Game Fest 2026 alongside Palworld's first cinematic trailer. The real question is this: can Palworld maintain its momentum after one of the most successful early access launches in recent gaming history? Now, I usually don't play early access games that much. That's kinda the rule that I have. But I'm retarded, so I usually break my own rules. Albeit in this particular situation, it's not happening that often. And the reason why I don't play early access games is because they are unfinished. I tend to do everything relatively fast, and then I'm kinda disappointed because A, the game is not finished, and B, I see all these problems in the game that my mind says these things should have been fixed. I simply don't have that early access mindset. And to be honest, I don't really mind it. However, I did play Palworld, and I played it a lot. I kinda aced up everything, and I was doing basically endgame stuff, which is, as far as I remember, that expedition stuff, breeding, and doing those ultra giga mega bosses or whatever the fuck they are called. And that's basically where the problems started to appear, because the endgame was extremely undercooked. There were many issues with the game, and essentially after some time, even though I invested a lot, mind you, I didn't play like 2 hours and then I was like, ah, fuck this shit, I'm not gonna do this. No, I actually invested 40-50 hours in the endgame. And then basically I figured out that, like I said, game is underbaked and I'm just gonna give up. So my main thing here is to see how they change the endgame. Did they listen to the feedback? Did they innovate in a way that it makes it even better? Because what other point is to play Palworld other than participate in the endgame? Because that's how the game is structured, not because I have these preferences of mine. So yeah, I think I will definitely dive into Palworld. I still have my save on, I think, that island that has a pretty decent circular position on the beach where I made my base. And I'll just continue playing from there. Hopefully, I don't need to make a new save and I can continue from where I stopped playing because I invested a lot. But at the same time, I don't think I would be mad to a point that I don't want to play the game anymore because again, I'm familiar with the systems, I know what I need to do, and second playthrough would probably be much more smoother than the first one. But in any case, the game is coming out relatively soon. I will definitely play it, make a review, and then we'll see if it's enjoyable. I will continue to play it. If it's not, well, it is what it is. And that's basically it when it comes to the news that I covered this week. Thanks very much for watching, and as always, I encourage you to leave comments. I read all of them, and I'm very happy to interact there with you guys. And if you enjoy this content or anything else that I'm making, consider liking it and subscribing for more discussions like this. And that's it from me. Until the next one.